Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode here at the Amazon Ads Educator Summit in Milan. I am with one of my closest partners, Krystel, and today we have a very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about international expansion, which I think is one of the best opportunities when it comes scaling brands on Amazon. A lot of people usually, are trying to maximize their local markets, but the reality is when you're reaching plateau, usually international expansion is the next step to essentially go into. And today we're going to be talking about the strategies, the tips, mistakes to avoid, and hopefully we can give you as much insight as possible so you can get the most out of the opportunity. So, Krystel, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm so excited. This is officially my favorite topic because, and one of the reasons why, Vincenzo, I love Amazon so much is the ability to be able to expand into other markets. Where if you think about it in regular retail, it's just so difficult. But Amazon gives you a vehicle. We just want to talk about how to use the vehicle properly and how to avoid any mistakes.
Love it. So before we go into the topic, just give us a brief introduction about
Sure.
yourself and we go from there.
So my name is Krystel Assi. I'm the founder and CEO of Amazon Sellers Society. We are a certified Amazon service provider. We're based in Dubai and primarily we support sellers since 2019 on Amazon in the Middle East. We've helped over 3,000 sellers launch on Amazon in the Middle East with everything that they need, from even just thinking about the products that they should sell all the way to helping them with managing their day-to-day ads.
Love it. Also, let me let you give you a brief introduction about myself. So, my name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and we are a full service agency based in London where we specialize on scaling brands on Amazon. Today, we have worked with over 1,000 brands, and with a team of over 80 people, we help essentially manage a portfolio over nine figures internationally. And today, a lot of the things we're going to be discussing is essentially all the things that we at Ecomcy have figured out in terms of what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully we can help you make that journey into international markets so much more easier.
Yeah.
So, Krystal, let's start with the foundation of this. Like a lot of people want to know why, first of all, international expansion is such a big opportunity because they might think, you know what, I just want to stay here in my home country. I don't want too much headache when it comes to
Yeah.
expanding our markets. But the reality is they're leaving a lot of money on the table. So tell us why they are missing out.
It's a very good question and it's understandable. You might feel overwhelmed, specifically if you are an SMB. Research shows, I don't know if you know this, that the majority of sellers that sell on Amazon, we're talking about 60%, are a team of 2 to 3 people.
Yeah.
So you're already overwhelmed, you're already, have multiple hats on, and now you have to figure out going to a country which you've probably never visited.
Yeah.
So it's 100% understandable. But to go back to exactly what you said in the beginning, at the end of the day, there is a certain cap to the demand that is available in the market. Even if you're selling in the US,
Yeah.
which everyone knows is like the biggest market, not only is there demand, there's also competition, and the competition is ruthless and relentless because it's always coming, and it's very easy to get into Amazon as a seller and as a brand. So, inevitably, looking at other markets where, for multiple different reasons, it could be because the competition is less,
Yeah.
it could be because penetration of the market is easier, it could be that the demand for your product is actually very high on the market.
Yeah.
So it could be all of those and so many more reasons that you would like and think about expanding. And another thing to consider, Vincenzo, is once you, and of course you know this, once you have figured out the system and process of Amazon, it's essentially somewhat, but of course we're going to talk about the mistakes, but it is essentially somewhat a rinse and repeat,
Exactly.
but just on a different market.
Yeah, I would say to add on top of that, what I love about international expansion when it comes to Amazon is that when you do this expansion, usually you're building on top of the success you're already
Yeah,
having in your home country, which is usually something you might not encounter in traditional retail. Like what I'm trying to say is, let's say you have a successful listing in Amazon USA and you want to expand to Amazon Italy, you can essentially just as simple as getting the same ASIN, the product from United States, you can bring to Spain or Italy, and now you're gonna start with all your reviews bringing from all
100%.
these international markets, which means you are hitting the ground running. And if you have done your research and the product is a good fit, starting from zero, and then you can build a momentum out of that. So I think that's one of the things that I really love when it comes to Amazon. And then all the tools associated with that, like global advertising now is making it so easy, even within the advertising console, that you can see all your countries and all the things that have to do with the advertising. So I think this is something that definitely people shouldn't be missing out. And I think a lot that has to do with the fact that they're not taking action is also they feel like that kind of a scarcity in terms of I don't really know the language, I don't know
Yeah.
how to really enter that culture. So many things associated with that. But we all know with AI in today's age, it's so easy to figure this out. Tell us more about how you're doing it. So
Information is out there for
yeah,
sure, and you just need to
yeah,
prioritize it. And you're very good. You're very right with what you said. And to build on top of what you said, expansion is, I think, everyone's dream nowadays, especially that we're so connected. Like with social media, you can connect to your consumer anywhere.
yeah.
So if you are able to connect to that consumer, you want to be able to sell
I
to the
agree.
consumer, and the easiest way would be to do it through Amazon.
Love it. Now let's start jumping to more the
Yeah.
execution of essentially doing this expansion.
Mm.
Now we have talked about the opportunity, why you shouldn't be missing out. Now, what is the first step? Like, how do I even know which country to go to? Which of my products is the right fit? Because there is a lot of decision making that has to be done here to make sure the decision is right. So let's start with the foundation. That where sellers should start when it comes to that.
I would say rather than starting with the foundation, because I'm going to touch on that, I would like to consider like a three step process or a
Mm,
3 level framework that we find a lot of sellers make these common mistakes when they are thinking of expanding internationally. And like I said in the beginning, we work with a lot of international brands and help them expand inwards to where we are at in the Middle East. So starting off with, first and foremost, copy and paste.
mm,
Yes, it's true. Your listing is your listing. And like Vincenzo said, you've got your reviews and you can build on top of that. But I find a lot of sellers think, I'll just, translate
yeah.
the content and that's it.
Google Translate.
Yeah, which is yes, of course, people, if you read a lot of studies and you do your research, you find that most people like to use their local language
Yeah.
to search for products and to purchase products. However, it's also important to understand that there are fine tuning things that you need to do for the culture of your products. Like, as an example, I could give you like a real example of a very interesting reusable water bottle brand
Mm-hmm.
selling in Europe. We assisted them with launching in Dubai.
Okay.
Now, the images of the brand are all related to somebody hiking in a forest,
Mm,
wearing, heavy clothing,
yeah.
which the images, don't get me wrong, are beautiful,
Yeah.
but they do not resonate
In Dubai.
to Dubai. There's no forest.
Yeah.
There's no jackets,
Yeah.
you need to change up that so that you can resonate
Mm-hmm.
to your customer, because as we speak all the time, this is how you're essentially connecting with the customer. So you need to do that. So copy and paste would be something to avoid. Second would be the catalog.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to touch on what you said. What should I launch and where should I launch it? A lot of sellers think, okay, I want to launch in Germany. I'll just sell all my catalog in Germany, which obviously doesn't make sense. You should have a strategy in everything that you do. And Amazon is a business at the end of the day, and you should follow a strategy. You would need to figure out the search volume, which is a
Mm,
very easy,
mm,
most sellers that get to a level where they should expand know where to find the search volume. So, in order to understand what of your products would succeed in that market, even if you want to launch the entire catalog, you should be aware and know beforehand what's going to work and what's not going to work.
yeah.
Not only that, you need to figure out if there are cultural differences in how people consume products. So, as an example, a recent brand, hand soap brand, that we've assisted to launch in Saudi Arabia, when we did our research, we saw that actually people in Saudi Arabia tend to purchase family size bottles and value pack bottles, and not like the small personal use hand soaps, just because families are a little bit larger.
Yeah.
So those were key information that the seller needed to know in order to understand how to position their catalog. And finally, one of the things that we see a lot of sellers do, which is also a mistake, is just relying on PPC,
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, I'll just use PPC and it's going to solve my entire, it's going to solve everything, and not even checking what would be the cost of of something like the
Yeah.
PPC, like CPC cost or anything like that. I think avoiding all of those mistakes, aligned with looking at all of those details, would help you understand probably which market to go into.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect segue to start bringing also, some of the mistakes. And I think it goes side by side with a lot of the advice. Like the first one I would say is localization. That's
Yeah.
such a good point to bring. Like I feel at those times when people go into international expansion, they assume that it's as simple as just translating
Yeah.
the copy and just go with the flow. And the reality is that it goes beyond the language. It goes with things that have to do with the culture, even religion, like
Yes, certainly.
religion, the weather, like what are some of the
Modesty, not
holidays. Yeah,
modesty,
exactly.
how do people dress? Yeah.
Yeah, all of that is super super important, and that's why you need to invest a lot of time, because sometimes you might have done the research on the market, you see the numbers, you see the search volume, but maybe your product is not the right fit. It
Yeah.
doesn't connect with the persona that is essentially looking to buy this product in that specific country. So that's a very good starting point. And I would say the second one is the numbers associated with jumping from one country to another in terms of the economics. You mentioned PPC,
Yeah.
and that's something that people assume, oh, whatever I'm spending on USA is going to be similar to what I spend in Italy or France and so on, and the cost per click is going to be completely different from country to country. Most likely the conversion is also going to be different, and if you don't factor all those things in, it's going to be a tough journey for you when it comes to really expanding. Now, I would say as a third point, and I'd like to hear
Mhm.
your opinion on this, comes down to how you do the decision making when it comes to the selection of the products. Because I would say the third mistake, and this is where I see most people actually struggling, is when they're jumping from, let's say, USA to Italy, which is example we've been working on so far. They might launch the whole catalog. They have
Yeah.
20 products, 30 products, 40 products, and then counting themselves with a huge a cash flow issue, because you need to relaunch all these products, you need to send inventory, and then it becomes very, very challenging. So I strongly believe in the 20/80 rule. Like most of
Yeah.
the time, 20% of your SKUs will bring 80% of the revenue. So I'm keen to know your take on that. Like, how you go about that?
The 2080 rule is something that is not necessarily just related to e-commerce. It is an actual retail rule as well. It is true. There are a lot of reasons why a seller would want to launch their entire catalog
Yeah.
versus launching one or two products. And the reasons might be valid. They might be because of the presence of their products and a lot of different things that, only brands can decide on.
Yeah.
But certainly, what I find is, and it's quite interesting for me, because these mistakes are done by brands which I think are like very
Mm.
knowledgeable, but
Yeah.
it's probably lack of time
Yeah.
that gets them to this point where they are entering into the market without knowing the numbers and without understanding what potentially is going to be that 20%.
Yeah.
What are those
Yeah.
products? And how do I position them? How do I position my inventory? What do I do? Another thing, which is kind of related to what you said, a mistake that we find a lot of, we see this mistake, honestly,
Mm.
probably once a week, with people placing huge orders with their suppliers,
Yeah.
only to find that when they enter into a new Amazon marketplace, Amazon warehouses have a certain cap of the amount of inventory that you can warehouse in
Yeah.
the fulfillment center. This is something that we face in the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a new seller, you're only eligible to warehouse 500 units.
Yeah.
So now the seller has ordered 10,000 units, and now they have to say, oh, I have to now factor in an
3PL.
additional 3PL.
Yeah.
So it's a tiny mistake, but it's a mistake nonetheless.
Yeah.
And it's related to just doing your research.
Awesome. So now, when it comes to all this expansion, I think something I want to bring to the table as well is opportunity cost. And what I mean by that is international expansion. At the end of the day, especially that now Amazon in so many countries,
Mhm.
can be also very challenging to really come down to which country to go for.
Mm.
Because even if in some of these countries there might be some opportunity from a research perspective, the reality is that there are some countries that we can call it the top five that we know that they keep growing, the search volume keep growing, and the adaptation Amazon is stronger than ever.
Yeah.
So I would like to touch on those countries because that would be also easier for especially sellers when expanding internationally to come down to a selection. Okay, these are the countries I should actually be focusing on at the beginning to then build my cash flow to then go fully global with all the countries that Amazon has to offer. So maybe let's start with the MENA region. Like within the MENA region itself, like there's so many options to start with. So from your experience, which one is the one that you say has the highest chance of success?
First of all, I would say, it's about thinking you as a brand. Do you want to come into a market that is growing, or do you want to enter into a market that's more mature? And there's nothing wrong, whatever way you choose, it's about the strategy that you follow.
Yeah.
Going into an emerging market has its positives, meaning you can, your CPC cost, your
Yeah.
ads cost is much cheaper, you're able to rank much faster, but the market somewhat is at a
Yeah.
new level, so you're not able to get that revenue in the beginning. And going into a mature market obviously has its, well-known issues and problems. But the thing that we find is very interesting when it comes to the MENA region is just like you said, the fast adoption
Yeah.
of how quickly people are consuming products online, looking at the average age of customers,
Yeah.
which is average about 32 to 33 years old, which is
Nice.
primarily fantastic. So I think those are some of the things that sellers need to look at when they decide to expand and which market to expand to. But, Amazon is really looking at focusing on more and more emerging marketplaces. At least that's what I
Yeah.
see. This is not official, this is my opinion. And there's a reason behind it, because even though every seller dreams of selling on Amazon.com, and it is the number one marketplace for sure, but I meet a lot of brands where they see that their ideal consumer might be living in Japan.
Yeah.
Even though they're a US based brand, they think the next step for me is not Germany, it's not Italy, it's not Spain, it's
Yeah.
not Europe, it's actually Japan,
Yeah.
which is kind of odd,
Yeah.
or Dubai, or anything like that. Now, with that being said, to go back to your question, Amazon in the MENA region has four marketplaces: UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, as well as Turkey. All marketplaces are very active, but I would say for an international brand coming in for both logistics purposes as well as the ease of doing business, it would be definitely the UAE.
Nice. I would say to add on that, in terms of countries that we're seeing being very successful when it comes to international expansion, I'm also gonna share like I would say our top five options after the US. I would say UK is very strong market to
Yeah.
expand into. Then we have Germany. Then the third one actually will be Amazon Japan. We're having very good success when it comes to expanding brands in there. Fourth one will be Amazon Australia.
Mhm.
And fifth one, which I think is one that a lot of people don't consider and is growing quite fast, Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just to give you some insight in terms of what we see in Ecomcy being a huge contributor of success when it comes to international expansion. And I would
But
say,
Vincenzo, how difficult is it to get someone from the US to think about moving? Mexico's
yeah,
simple, but like to Japan.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah. Of course, it is sometimes a very difficult thing to even start
yeah,
taking your first step. But the good thing is that there are partners out there like myself, like yourself, that
exactly.
especially giving you the example of Japan, we have the full network there. We can help you with the logistics, the taxes, like the compliance. We even have people that will represent you. So at the end of the day, if you work with the right partner, it's easier than what a lot of things might think it is. It's just that when it comes to picturing international expansion, the reason why a lot of people don't do it is because they think everything has to be done by themselves and everything has to be figured out by themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge believer on the concept of stand on the shoulder of giants. And that's a concept of work with people already has been there. They already have
Uh-huh.
done the mistakes. They know what works, what doesn't work. And your journey is going to be so much easier.
100%.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess to start coming to a closure, I would like to maybe give one advice for 2026 when it comes to international expansion that you think people keep doing this mistake. I keep saying don't do it. They keep doing it. And I think this is going to be very impactful for a business and it's going to make their journey easier.
I think expanding too early.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that's just international expansion, that's also expanding on other marketplaces. We find a lot of sellers that aren't performing well, for example. Let's say they're not performing well on Amazon Germany. They think it must be that I'm in the wrong country. I
Yeah.
should move somewhere else. And I constantly say, if you're in a relationship and the relationship isn't going well, you don't jump to another one. You need to learn what's going on.
Yeah.
So expanding too early would be, or expanding for the reason of because you're not doing well here, maybe I'll do well on another marketplace, or maybe
Yeah.
I'll do well in another country, would be certainly a mistake that I would hope people avoid. Fix your issues, and like you said in the beginning, you're building on your success. So you need to be successful first to a certain degree and then build off of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think to add on top of that, which comes down to expanding too early, the second mistake, which actually most of the time goes side by side with this, is expanding to many markets as well.
Yeah.
Like people say, let's expand internationally, and let's say let's do Amazon in Europe, and they do seven, 10 plus countries that you can do,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, we are talking about international expansion, but if you're gonna expand on all these countries, which each of them have their own complexity with taxes, logistics, and everything that encounters international expansion, like a lot of times you're gonna crash.
100%. Time
So
wise and expense
yeah,
wise, it seems like it's an easy thing, but when you put it down on a piece of paper, you
yeah.
understand what it is. Yeah.
Love it, Chris. So I think, I mean, we covered so many interesting things today. The foundation of international expansion, why you should do it, advice, mistakes to avoid.
Yep.
So it's been a pleasure to have you today.
You
Thank you
too.
so
Thank
much.
you.
And guys, if you have any comments or any questions, leave them down below. But please make sure if you take one thing from today's episode is take action and make sure you explore the international expansion opportunity,
Definitely.
because most likely it can be the difference for your brand moving forward. So
Definitely.
thank you.
Thanks.